somehow I got forecast to do really badly in my A-levels and really badly and managed to pass. My teacher in politics said, Damian will need a superhuman effort to achieve any grade in this subject. And he forecast me for a U and I actually got a B. So it was like, I think kind of, I got a bit of a surprise that I passed. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later, but I kind of moved to Manchester in 1989 and that's where my kind of adult life started. So I was 19 and, it was a brilliant time to move there. It was, I went to see like, Stone Roses at Spike Island and Happy Mondays at GMX and all that kind of stuff. So I just went from the northeast, which is great to grow up in, but wasn't as interesting culturally. And I moved to Manchester and just immersed myself in that. And then when I left uni, I started to manage a band. So my friend was a drummer and he lived in a whole residence next door to me. So that was like he was a good navigator for me. And I'm going to talk about navigators in my life a bit later. But he sort of said, do you want to manage my band? I was like, what does that involve? That sounds great. So I started managing bands in Manchester and then moved to London. And that's really where I kind of became much more sort of professional and serious in terms of the music industry, signed a couple of acts to major labels and did that music industry side for real. So that's kind of how I kind of got into the music industry. And then I moved back to the Northeast and became a sort of expert in the music industry and helped other people set up music businesses. And that extended to kind of wider cultural and creative business support. And that's kind of, I guess, the kind of start my journey and that kind of relates to what I do now, really.
But let's just back up the truck a bit on that. So, because you are a music man first and foremost. Yeah. I mean, that's just through and through.
Absolutely.
But let's not skip over the business side either, because I mean, how many businesses have you helped? Because you were part of a group called Transmit Startups, weren't you? Yeah. And I think there's an extraordinary amount of businesses that you've supported. What's the last number?
Well, Transmit Startups, we delivered the kind of startup loans program. And that was an initiative where after the credit crunch, none of the high street banks wanted to support startups. So the coalition government set up something through the British Business Bank, and it was to deliver funding into startups where the banks had left. We did that for 10 years and we supported 15,000 businesses.
15,000.
Yeah.